The executioner's blade was cold against the back of my neck. I knelt in the courtyard of Youngbook Palace, hands bound behind me with rough hemp rope that had already rubbed my wrists raw. Rain fell in sheets, mixing with the blood from the other condemned prisoners who'd been dragged to the chopping block before me. The cobblestones beneath my knees were slick with it, crimson rivers flowing between the cracks, carrying away lives and last words and final prayers. I wasn't praying. I was watching him. Prince Jinwan stood beneath the covered pavilion reserved for the royal family, his face as still and beautiful as carved jade. He wore robes of deep midnight blue embroidered with silver dragons, and even from this distance, even through the rain and my tears, I could see his dark eyes watching me with absolutely nothing in them. No regret, no sorrow, not even satisfaction, just emptiness. 3 days ago, he had kissed me in the moonlight of the palace gardens and whispered that he would make me his wife, that my low birth didn't matter because love transcended the rigid class system of our Joseon dynasty, that he would defy his father the king, the court ministers, even heaven itself to be with me. 2 days ago, he had stood in the throne room and personally accused me of treason. 1 day ago, I was sentenced to death by beheading. And now? The traitor Min Se-yan, the court official's voice rang out across the courtyard, guilty of conspiring against the crown, of selling palace secrets to enemies of the realm, of attempted poisoning of His Majesty the King. You are hereby sentenced to execution. Your family line shall be erased. Your name shall be struck from all records. You will die as you lived, as nothing. I wanted to scream that it was a lie, that I had never betrayed anyone, that the only crime I'd committed was loving a prince who saw me as convenient entertainment until a more suitable match was arranged. But my voice had been stolen 3 days ago when they'd branded my tongue with hot iron as punishment for speaking against the crown prince's accusations. All I could manage was a broken, animal sound of pain. Through the rain, I saw Crown Prince Jinwan's lips curve into the smallest smile. That's when I understood. He had planned this from the beginning. Every smile, every touch, every whispered promise of forever, it had all been a game, a way to pass the time before his arranged marriage to Lady Park, daughter of the most powerful minister in the kingdom. I was never meant to be anything but a plaything, and when I started to become inconvenient, when the palace servants began to gossip about the prince's affection for a lowly court maid, when Lady Park's family started to ask pointed questions, he'd simply decided to erase me. Not just kill me, erase me, destroy my reputation so thoroughly that no one would question my death or mourn my passing. The executioner pressed the blade harder against my neck. Any last words, traitor? I couldn't speak, but I could still see. So I looked at Crown Prince Jinwan one final time, and I made a silent vow with everything I had left. If heaven grants me another life, I will destroy you. I will take everything you love. I will watch you suffer as I have suffered, and I will smile as you die, just as you're smiling now. The blade fell, and the world went dark. I woke up in silk. That was the first strange thing. I had never touched silk in my life. Court maids were rough cotton hanbok, practical and plain. But the fabric against my skin now was smooth as water, cool and impossibly soft. The second strange thing was the ceiling. I was staring up at exposed wooden beams painted with intricate patterns of cranes and clouds, the kind of artistry reserved for the rooms of Yongbon nobility. The third strange thing was that I could breathe without pain, that my neck didn't hurt, that my tongue— I sat up so fast the room spun. My hands flew to my throat, expecting to find the deep wound from the executioner's blade, but my skin was smooth and unmarked. I touched my mouth, expecting the burned, ruined tongue that had been seared with iron, but when I opened my mouth and whispered, "How?" the word came out clear and whole. "My lady, you're awake!" A young servant girl rushed into the room, her face bright with relief. She wore the hanbok of a high-ranking household servant, far better quality than anything I'd ever worn in the palace. She couldn't have been more than 15, with round cheeks and eyes that sparkled with genuine warmth. "My lady, you gave us all such a fright. 3 days unconscious after that fall from your horse. The physician said you might never wake up, but I prayed every day to the mountain spirits and— Oh, my lady, you're crying. Does your head hurt? Should I call the physician?" I was crying, but not from pain. I looked down at my hands. They were smooth and pale, with long, elegant fingers and nails shaped into perfect crescents. These weren't the work-roughened hands of a palace maid. These were the hands of someone who'd never done hard labor a day in her life. "Mirror," I whispered. "Bring me a mirror." The servant girl hesitated. "My lady, perhaps you should rest. Now." Something in my voice made her hurry. She returned moments later with a bronze mirror polished to a high shine, and when I looked into it, a stranger's face stared back at me. She was beautiful. Not in the soft, pretty way of palace women who painted their faces with lead powder and rouge, but beautiful in a way that felt almost dangerous. High cheekbones, eyes that tilted up slightly at the corners, lips that were full and naturally red. Her skin was flawless, unmarked by sun or hardship. This was the face of someone born to privilege, someone who'd never knelt in the rain waiting to be executed, someone who'd never loved a man who'd betrayed her. "What is my name?" I asked the servant. She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "My lady, you hit your head quite badly. Do you truly not remember? Tell me." "You are Lady Song Minji, eldest daughter of Minister Song Taeyang, one of the 5 most powerful ministers in His Majesty's court." She wrung her hands nervously. "My lady, should I fetch your father, or perhaps send word to Lord Yoon?" Lord Yoon. The name sparked something in the back of my mind. Not my mind, but the mind of the body I now inhabited. Memories that weren't mine began to surface like bubbles rising through water. Song Minji, 17 years old, engaged to be married to Lord Yoon Ha-yoon, the famously cold and scholarly second son of the Yoon family, a brilliant strategist who'd earned his position as a royal military advisor at the unprecedented age of 23, a man known throughout Hanyang for his intelligence, his honor, and his complete disinterest in romance or marriage. And according to Song Minji's memories, a man who'd agreed to the engagement only because his family had pressured him, and who'd made it quite abundantly clear he considered his future wife nothing more than a necessary inconvenience. I almost laughed. Executed as a traitor in my first life, reborn as a noble lady engaged to a man who didn't want me in my second life. But as I sifted through Song Minji's memories, I found something else, something that made my blood run cold. Crown Prince Jinwan, the man who'd killed me, the man I'd sworn to destroy. In this life, in this timeline, he was unmarried. Lady Park's engagement to him had been called off just months ago under mysterious circumstances, and now, according to the gossip that even sheltered noble daughters heard, the Crown Prince was searching for a new bride. My reflection smiled back at me from the bronze mirror, and for the first time since I'd woken up in this strange new body, I felt something other than confusion. I felt purpose. "Tell my father I'm well enough to receive visitors, and send word to Lord Yoon that I wish to meet with him regarding our engagement." The servant girl's eyes went wide. "My lady, are you certain? You've been unconscious for 3 days, and Lord Yoon is not known for his patience with foolish noble ladies who can't sit a horse properly," I supplied. "Yes, I'm aware of his opinions, but I'm not the same woman who fell off that horse." That, at least, was the truth. Lord Yoon Hae-jun arrived the next afternoon, exactly on time, and looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. He was beautiful in the way sharp things are beautiful, all clean lines and austere elegance. Tall, with shoulders broad enough to fill out his scholar's robes impressively, and a face that would have been almost too pretty if not for the severity of his expression. His dark eyes held the kind of intelligence that missed nothing, and when he looked at me, I could practically see him cataloging every detail and finding it all tedious. We sat in the formal receiving room of my father's estate, a low table between us laden with tea and rice cakes that neither of us touched. A servant stood in the corner for propriety's sake, but far enough away that our conversation would be private. "Lady Song," he said, his voice as cool and controlled as his expression, "I'm told you wish to discuss our engagement." I did. I poured tea for both of us with the practiced grace that Song Minji's muscle memory provided. I wanted to meet my future husband and understand his expectations for our marriage. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise maybe that I was being so direct. "My expectations are simple. We will marry because our families have arranged it. You will manage the household and produce heirs. I will continue my work for the crown. We will be civil to each other in public and stay out of each other's way in private." "How romantic," I said dryly. His eyebrow rose a fraction. "Romance is a luxury, Lady Song. I have neither the time nor the inclination for it." "I see. And if I told you I wanted more from a marriage, companionship perhaps, partnership, mutual respect, I would tell you that you're being unrealistic." He reached for his teacup, his long fingers wrapping around it with casual elegance. "We are both performing roles assigned to us by birth and circumstance. You will be a minister's wife, I will be a minister's husband. That is the extent of our obligations to each other." In my first life, such coldness would have devastated me, but I wasn't the naive court maid anymore who believed in love and happy endings. "Very well," I said, "then I have a proposal for you." Now both eyebrows rose. "A proposal? You don't want a romantic marriage. Neither do I, as it happens. But what if instead of simply tolerating each other, we formed an actual alliance? You're a military strategist. You understand the value of having a competent partner who can help you achieve your goals." Lord Yoon set down his teacup slowly, his dark eyes studying me with new intensity. "What goals would those be?" The same ones any ambitious man in your position would have. Advancing your career, gaining influence at court, perhaps even, I paused delicately, ensuring that the next crown prince is someone worthy of the throne. The room went very, very quiet. That's a dangerous thing to say, Lady Song. His voice was soft, but there was steel beneath it. Some might call it treasonous. Only if I were suggesting we overthrow the current crown prince through illegal means. I'm not. I'm suggesting we support better candidates for positions of power, use our combined family influence to guide policy, become the kind of couple that shapes the future of Joseon, rather than just existing within it. And why would you want such a thing? Most noble ladies are content to manage their households and bear children. Most noble ladies haven't died and been given a second chance at life. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Lord Yoon's eyes narrowed. What did you say? I could have backtracked, made up a poetic metaphor about her near-death experience giving Song Minji a new perspective, but something in his face, the sharp intelligence, the hint of curiosity breaking through his cold facade, made me take a risk. The fall from the horse, I said carefully. It changed me, gave me clarity about what I want from this life, and what I want is to matter, to be more than a decorative wife whose only purpose is to produce heirs. He studied me for a long moment, and I could see him reassessing everything he thought he knew about his quiet, conventional fiancée. You're not what I expected, he finally said. Is that a problem? I'm not certain yet. He stood, and I rose with him. But Lady Song, if we're going to form any kind of alliance, I need to know I can trust you, and trust is not given freely. Then let me earn it. I moved closer, close enough to see the faint scar along his jaw that his high collar usually hid. Give me one task, one opportunity to prove I'm not just another silly noble lady. If I fail, we go back to your original plan, civil in public, separate in private. But if I succeed, if you succeed, then you consider me a true partner, an equal, someone worth trusting. Lord Yoon was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching my face for something I couldn't name. Then slowly, he smiled. It was a small smile, barely there, but it transformed his austere face into something almost warm. Very well, he said. I accept your proposal, Lady Song. Let's see if you're as competent as you claim to be. The task Lord Yoon gave me was both simple and impossible. Crown Prince Jinwan was hosting a royal banquet in 1 week to celebrate the start of the new season. All the noble families would attend, including mine. Lord Yoon needed me to discover who among the assembled ministers was secretly supporting the Crown Prince's plan to implement a new tax policy that would devastate the merchant class while enriching the aristocracy. The Crown Prince has been meeting with someone in secret, Lord Yoon explained when he returned to my father's estate 2 days later. Someone feeding him strategies and information. I need to know who it is before the policy is formally proposed to the king. And why does this matter to you? I asked. You're a military advisor, not a tax policy expert. Because a starving merchant class leads to unrest. Unrest leads to rebellion. Rebellion leads to war. And war is something we can't afford right now, not with the northern border as unstable as it is. He set a scroll down on the table between us. These are the names of the ministers I suspect. I need you to determine which one is guilty. I unrolled the scroll and scanned the names. My heart stopped when I reached the third one. Minister Song Tae-young. My father. Song Minji's father. You suspect my own father? I looked up at Lord Yoon, keeping my expression carefully neutral. I suspect everyone, he said simply. Can you handle this, Lady Song, or was your bold speech about partnership just empty words? I thought about the Crown Prince, about his smile as the executioner's blade fell, about the vow I'd made to destroy him. If my father, Song Minji's father, was helping Jinwan implement policies that would hurt the common people, then he was part of the problem, and if discovering his guilt was the price of earning Lord Yoon's trust, then I would pay it. I can handle it, I said. The royal banquet was held in the grand hall of Gyeongbok Palace, the same palace where I'd been executed in my first life. Walking through those gates again made my hands shake, but I forced myself to breathe, to remember that I was Song Minji now, a noble lady in silk robes instead of a condemned traitor in blood-stained rags. The hall was magnificent, all red pillars and gold leaf, with banners bearing the royal family's symbols hanging from the high ceiling. Tables were arranged in a careful hierarchy, with the king and queen at the head, the crown prince and his retinue to the right, and the various ministers and their families spread throughout the rest of the space. I answered with my father, who looked distinguished in his official robes, and my stepmother, who'd barely spoken to me since I'd woken from my fall. Song Minji's memories told me that her stepmother had 3 children of her own and considered Song Minji an inconvenient reminder of my father's first, more beloved wife. As we took our places, I scanned the room and found Lord Yoon seated with his family near the military officials section. He caught my eye and gave the slightest nod. Then I saw him. Crown Prince Jinwan sat beside the king, looking every inch the perfect heir, handsome, composed, radiating confidence and charm. He was holding court with several ministers, laughing at something one of them said, and the sound of his laughter made my stomach turn. But I couldn't afford to be paralyzed by hatred. Not tonight. I had a task to complete. Over the next 2 hours, I played the role of dutiful daughter and modest fiancée perfectly. I smiled and nodded and said all the right things to the other noble ladies, but I was watching, always watching. I watched which ministers approached the crown prince, how long they spoke, whether they seemed nervous or confident. I noted who kept glancing at Jinwan throughout the meal and who seemed to be avoiding his gaze entirely. And slowly, a pattern emerged. It wasn't my father. Minister Song Tae-young spoke to the crown prince exactly once, a brief exchange that seemed more about formality than conspiracy. He showed no signs of nervousness, no furtive glances, no indication that he was hiding anything. But Minister Han, a relatively minor official whose family had only recently risen to prominence, couldn't stop looking at Jinwan. Every few minutes, his eyes would dart to the crown prince's table, and when Jinwan finally stood to give a speech about the prosperity of the kingdom, Minister Han's expression was one of barely concealed anxiety. I filed the information away and continued my observations. It was nearly midnight when Crown Prince Jinwan made his way through the hall, greeting various nobles and their families. My pulse quickened as he approached our table. "Minister Song," he said warmly, clasping my father's hand, "and this must be your daughter, Lady Song Minji. I've heard you're recently engaged to Lord Yoon. My congratulations." Up close, he was exactly as I remembered. The same perfect features, the same warm eyes that hid cold calculation, the same smile that once made my heart race and now made my skin crawl. He didn't recognize me. Why would he? I wore a different face, a different name, a different life. "Your Highness," I murmured, bowing low. "Lord Yoon is a fortunate man," Jinwan continued, his gaze lingering on me just a moment too long. "I hope you'll both be very happy." There was something in his tone that made my father shift uncomfortably, a proprietary interest that went beyond mere politeness. "Thank you, Your Highness," I said, keeping my eyes downcast. He moved on, but I felt his attention on me throughout the rest of the evening, and I knew with cold certainty that Crown Prince Jinwan had noticed me. This could either be very useful or very dangerous. I met Lord Yoon in the palace gardens after the banquet, in a secluded area behind the pavilion where we wouldn't be observed. "Minister Han," I said, without preamble. "He's the one feeding information to the crown prince." Lord Yoon's expression didn't change, but I saw the flash of something, approval maybe, in his dark eyes. "How did you determine this?" I explained what I'd observed, the nervous glances, the anxiety during the crown prince's speech, the way Minister Han had tried too hard to appear casual when Jinwan walked past his table. "It's not conclusive evidence," I admitted, "but it's enough to warrant further investigation." "It is," Lord Yoon agreed. "Well done, Lady Song. I'll have my people look into Minister Han's recent activities. If he's been meeting with the Crown Prince in secret, we'll find proof." "And then what?" "Then we expose him before the tax policy can be proposed, discredit him in front of the king, make sure his advice is viewed as suspect." I nodded slowly. "That will hurt the Crown Prince's plans." "It will." Lord Yoon studied me in the moonlight. "Is that a problem for you?" "Why would it be?" "Because I saw the way he looked at you tonight, like a hawk spotting prey. His voice was cool, but there was an edge to it I couldn't quite identify. The Crown Prince is known for his appreciation of beautiful women. If he takes an interest in you, it could complicate things." "Let him take an interest," I said, the words coming out harder than I intended. "I can handle Crown Prince Jinwan." Lord Yoon's eyes narrowed. "You say his name like you hate him." I'd slipped, let too much emotion show through. "I hate what he represents," I said carefully. "A future king who would implement policies that hurt innocent people just to enrich himself and his supporters. Don't you hate that too?" "I do." He steps closer, and in the moonlight I could see the scar on his jaw more clearly. "But there's something you're not telling me, Lady Song. Something about you that doesn't add up. The fall from the horse changed you, yes, but people don't change this much from a simple accident." My heart was pounding. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm not sure yet." His gaze was intense, searching. "But I'm a strategist, Lady Song. I solve puzzles for a living, and you're the most interesting puzzle I've encountered in years." We stood there in the garden, the night air cool against my skin, and I made a decision. "If I tell you the truth," I said quietly, "you'll think I'm insane. Try me." So I did. Not everything, I wasn't that foolish, but I told him about the execution, about Crown Prince Jinwan's betrayal, about waking up in Minji's body with all my memories intact. When I finished, Lord Yoon was quiet for so long I thought he might call for guards to have me taken away as a madwoman. Then he said, The crown prince executed a palace maid named Min Seoyan 3 months ago. I remember it because the charges seemed unusually severe for someone of such low rank. They accused her of treason, of trying to poison the king, of selling palace secrets. I never did any of those things, I whispered. He framed me because I became inconvenient. And now you want revenge? I want justice. They're not the same thing. In this case, they are. I met his gaze steadily. Crown Prince Jinwan is a monster who destroys anyone who gets in his way. He'll make a terrible king. And if we're going to shape the future of Joseon as I proposed, then removing him from the line of succession should be our ultimate goal. Lord Yun was quiet again, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he smiled, that small, rare smile that transformed his face. You really are insane. But you're also right. The crown prince would be a disaster for this kingdom. He held out his hand. So let's make a new agreement, Lady Song. Or should I call you Seo Yan? Minji, I said, taking his hand. That life is over. This is who I am now. Then Lady Song Minji, here's my proposal. We work together to ensure Crown Prince Jinwan never takes the throne, and in exchange, I'll help you get the justice you deserve. His hand was warm and strong, and for the first time since I'd woken up in this new life, I felt like I wasn't alone. Deal, I said. Over the next 3 months, Lord Yun and I became partners in every sense of the word. We exposed Minister Han's secret meetings with the Crown Prince, providing evidence to the king that forced Han into early retirement. We worked together to support alternative policies that benefited the common people rather than just the aristocracy. We attended court functions as an engaged couple and slowly built a reputation as intelligent, politically savvy, and completely devoted to the kingdom's welfare. And somewhere along the way, the partnership became something more. It started small. Lord Yun taking my hand as we walked through the markets, ostensibly to maintain the appearance of an affectionate couple, but his fingers lingering just a moment longer than necessary. Me bringing him tea during late-night strategy sessions, and staying to discuss philosophy and politics until dawn broke over Hanyang. The way he looked at me started to change, less like a puzzle to be solved, and more like something precious, something worth protecting. And the way I looked at him changed too. I noticed things I hadn't before. The way he rolled his shoulders when he was tired, the rare, brilliant smile that appeared when he was genuinely pleased, the kindness he showed to servants and commoners despite his aristocratic upbringing. Lord Yun Hajun was nothing like Crown Prince Jinwan. Where Jinwan was charming and shallow, Yun was reserved and deep. Where Jinwan used people, Yun valued them. Where Jinwan destroyed anything inconvenient, Yun built solutions. I was falling in love with him, and that terrified me. Because I'd loved before, and it had ended with light execution. We were in his study late one evening, reviewing reports about the Crown Prince's activities, when Yun suddenly set down the document he'd been reading and looked at me. Minji, he said. He'd started using my given name when we were alone, and every time he said it, something warm bloomed in my chest. I need to tell you something. What is it? The Crown Prince has been asking about you, making inquiries into your family, your background, your engagement to me. Ice flooded my veins. What kind of inquiries? The kind a man makes when he's interested in a woman. Yun's expression was grim. He's been making comments at court about how unfortunate it is that such a beautiful and intelligent lady is already engaged, how perhaps if circumstances were different, he wants to steal me from you. It would appear so. I laughed, the sound bitter and sharp. Of course he does. That's what Jinwan does. He sees something that belongs to someone else and decides he wants it. You don't belong to anyone, Minji. Yun stood and crossed to where I sat. But I need you to understand something. If the Crown Prince actively pursues you, refusing him could be dangerous. He's vindictive when denied what he wants. I know that better than anyone. Then you understand that we need to be careful. We can't give him any excuse to target you. He paused, then added quietly, or us. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we move up the wedding, make our engagement official in a way he can't interfere with. Yoon knelt beside my chair, bringing himself to my eye level. I'm suggesting we actually become husband and wife rather than just political partners. My heart was racing. Is that what you want? What I want, he said slowly, is complicated. I never intended to care about anyone. Caring makes you vulnerable. It gives your enemies leverage. But Minji, he reached up and brushed a strand of hair from my face, his touch impossibly gentle. Somewhere between your insane confession in the garden and tonight, I started to care about you, more than is wise, more than is safe. Yoon, let me finish. His dark eyes held mine. I know you loved Crown Prince Jinwan once, that he broke your heart and took your life. I know you might never be able to love anyone else because of what he did to you. But even if you can't love me, I need you to know, I will protect you. I will be faithful to you. I will be the partner you deserve, if you'll have me. I looked at this brilliant, complicated man kneeling beside my chair, offering me safety and partnership and something that looked terribly like love, and I felt the walls I'd built around my heart start to crack. I did love him once, I said softly, but that girl is dead, Yoon. She died in that courtyard 3 months ago, and the woman I am now, I cupped his face in my hands, the woman I am now is falling in love with you. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise, slow and brilliant and beautiful. He kissed me then, and it was nothing like the kisses I'd shared with Jinwan. Those had been hungry and desperate, always tinged with the fear that he would leave me. This was steady and sure and full of promise. This was the kiss of a man who chose me, not as a plaything or a convenience, but as a partner, an equal. When we finally pulled apart, Yoon rested his forehead against mine. "Marry me tomorrow," he whispered. "I'll arrange everything, a small ceremony with just our families. Make it official before the crown prince can interfere." "Tomorrow," I agreed. And for the first time since I woke up in Song Minji's body, I felt something other than rage and determination. I felt hope. The wedding was simple but beautiful, held in the family shrine of the Yoon estate with only our immediate families present. I wore hanbok in deep crimson and gold, the traditional colors of a bride. And when Yoon first saw me, the look on his face made me feel like the most beautiful woman in all of Joseon. The ceremony itself was a blur of ritual and tradition, bowing to ancestors, exchanging cups of wine, the formal words binding us together as husband and wife. But the moment that mattered, the moment I would remember forever, was when Yoon took my hand after the final blessing and whispered, "No matter what comes, we face it together now. You're not alone anymore, Minji." I squeezed his hand in response, unable to speak past the emotion clogging my throat. The wedding feast that followed was small but joyful. My father seemed genuinely pleased that I'd married into the prestigious Yoon family. Yoon's mother, a formidable woman who'd initially seemed skeptical of me, warmed considerably when she saw how her son looked at me. It was nearly midnight when Yoon and I finally escaped to our chambers. The room was beautiful, decorated with silk screens and fine furniture, but I barely noticed any of it. I was too focused on my new husband, who was looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "What is it?" I asked. "I'm trying to determine if this is real," he said. "This morning I was a confirmed bachelor who'd resigned himself to a political marriage. Tonight I'm a husband who's desperately in love with his wife. It seems impossible. Is it a good impossible or a bad impossible?" He crossed to me and pulled me into his arms, the very best kind of impossible. We made love that night, and it was everything my first experience with intimacy hadn't been. Where Jinwon had been selfish and rushed, Yoon was patient and generous. Where I'd felt used before, I felt cherished now. Afterward, we lay tangled together in the silk sheets, and Yoon traced idle patterns on my shoulder. "What happens now?" I asked quietly. "Now we continue our work, building our influence, supporting better policies, and," he paused, "preparing for the eventual confrontation with Crown Prince Jinwon." "You think it's inevitable?" "I know it is. Men like him don't forgive being denied what they want, and he wanted you, Minji. The moment I married you, I made an enemy of the future king." "I'm sorry," I whispered. "Don't be." He kissed the top of my head. "I made this choice with full knowledge of the consequences, and I'd make it again." I nestled closer to him, feeling safe in a way I hadn't felt in either of my lives. But safety, I was about to learn, was an illusion. The summons came 2 weeks later. Crown Prince Jinwon requested my presence at the palace, alone. "Absolutely not," Yoon said when the royal messenger delivered the invitation. "Tell the crown prince that Lady Yoon is indisposed." "My lord," the messenger said nervously, "His Highness was quite clear. This is not a request, it's a command from the crown prince himself." Yoon's expression darkened, but we both knew he couldn't refuse a direct order from Jinwon without serious political consequences. "Then I'll accompany my wife," Yoon said. "The crown prince specified that Lady Yoon should come alone." I put my hands on Yoon's arm before he could say something that would make this worse. "It's fine. I'll go." "Minji." "I'll be careful," I promised. "And I'll be armed." His eyes widened slightly. After our wedding, Yoon had started teaching me self-defense and knife work, saying that any woman in our position needed to be able to protect herself. I'd proven to be a quick study. "A hidden blade," I clarified, "just in case." He pulled me aside, away from the messenger. "If he touches you," Yoon said quietly, his voice deadly serious, "if he threatens you in any way, you send word immediately. I don't care about political consequences. I will come for you." "I know." I kissed him quickly. "But Yoon, this might be an opportunity to get close to him, to learn his weaknesses. Or it might be a trap. Then I'll spring it carefully." Crown Prince Jinwon received me in his private study, a room I'd never been allowed to enter in my first life. He stood when I entered, and his smile was the same charming, empty thing I remembered. "Lady Yoon," he said warmly, "thank you for accepting my invitation. Please, sit." I sat in the chair he indicated, keeping my posture perfect and my expression neutral. "Your Highness, to what do I owe the honor of this summons?" Summons sounds so formal. He poured tea for both of us with his own hands, a gesture of supposed honor that made my skin crawl. I simply wanted to get to know my newest court member better. Your marriage to Lord Yoon was quite sudden. We saw no reason to wait. No reason except propriety, tradition, proper planning. He smiled. But I suppose when one is in love, such things seem less important. Lord Yoon and I are very happy together. Are you? Jinwan leaned back in his chair, studying me. I wonder. Lord Yoon is known for being cold, distant, not the sort of man one would expect to inspire sudden passion in a noble lady. Perhaps you don't know him as well as you think. Perhaps, his eyes glittered with something dangerous, or perhaps you married him for other reasons, political alliance maybe, protection. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. Protection from what, Your Highness? From me. The words hung in the air between us like a blade. I don't know what you mean, I said carefully. Jinwan stood and crossed to where I sat. He leaned against the desk, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to look at him. Come now, Lady Yoon, let's not play games. I've made my interest in you quite clear, and you responded by rushing into marriage with a man everyone knows you barely knew. That suggests you were either very attracted to Lord Yoon or very afraid of me. I'm not afraid of you. No. He reached out and brushed a strand of hair from my face, the gesture mockingly gentle. Then why do you flinch when I touch you? I forced myself to stay still, to not pull away, even though every instinct screamed at me to run. Because you're the crown prince, Your Highness. It's inappropriate for you to touch me when my husband is not present. Your husband? He said the word like it tasted bad. Yes, let's talk about Lord Yoon. Do you know what I find interesting, Lady Yoon? Forgive me, Lady Yoon. Your husband has been working very hard to undermine certain policies I've been trying to implement. Policies that would benefit the aristocracy and strengthen the crown's position. Perhaps he has legitimate concerns about those policies. Or perhaps, Jinwan said, his voice dropping to something colder, he's using his new wife's family connections to build a power base of his own. Minister Song is quite influential after all, and now that Lord Yoon is his son-in-law, he has access to resources he didn't have before. My husband is loyal to the crown and to Joseon. Is he? Jinwan's hand moved from my hair to my chin, tilting my face up. No, or is he loyal only to his own ambitions? And are you, Lady Yoon, loyal to your husband, or might you be persuaded to a different alliance? This was it, the moment I'd been both dreading and anticipating. I could see the calculation in Jinwan's eyes. He thought I was like any other noble lady, flattered by royal attention, awed by power, willing to betray my husband for the favor of the crown prince. He had no idea who I really was, what he'd really done to me. And in that moment, I made a decision. What kind of alliance did you have in mind, Your Highness? I asked, my voice soft and demure. His smile widened. The kind that would be mutually beneficial. I need someone close to Lord Yoon, someone who can tell me what he's planning, what he's working on. And in exchange, I can offer you things your cold, distant husband never could. Attention, affection, power. And if I refuse, then I would be forced to look more closely at your husband's activities, to question his loyalty, perhaps even to suspect him of, Jinwan paused delicately, treason. There it was, the same trap he'd used on me before. Cooperate or watch someone you love be destroyed. But I wasn't the naive girl I'd been in my first life, and I had something now that I hadn't had then, a partner who trusted me. I need to think about this, I said. Of course, take all the time you need. He released my chin, but didn't step back. But Lady Yoon, don't take too long. My patience has limits. I told Yoon everything the moment I returned home. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each word. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. He's trying to turn you into a spy, Yoon finally said. Yes, and he's threatening you if I refuse. Let him threaten. I'm not afraid of the crown prince. You should be. I took his hands. Yoon, he doesn't make idle threats. He will find a way to destroy you if I don't cooperate. He'll manufacture evidence, bribe witnesses, do whatever it takes. Then we'll fight him. We can't fight him directly. He's the crown prince. He has all the power. I took a breath. But we can use this. Pretend I'm cooperating, feed him false information, make him think I'm his spy while actually using the access to gather evidence against him. Yoon's eyes widened. You want to get close to him? Deliberately. I want to destroy him, I said, and this is how we do it, from the inside. It's too dangerous, Minji. If he suspects you're playing him, he won't suspect, because I know exactly what he wants to see. A woman who's unhappy in her marriage, who's drawn to power and charm, who's willing to betray her husband for the crown prince's attention. I smiled bitterly. I played that role before, in my first life. I can play it again. I don't like this. Neither do I. But Yoon, we're never going to get another opportunity like this. He's inviting me in, giving me access. We'd be fools not to use it. He pulled me into his arms, holding me tight. If anything happens to you, nothing will happen, I promised, because I have you, and this time I know exactly what kind of monster I'm dealing with. Over the next 2 months, I played the most dangerous game of my life. I met with Crown Prince Jinwan regularly, always in secret, always careful to maintain the appearance of a woman being reluctantly seduced by power and attention. I fed him carefully crafted lies about Yoon's work, mixed with just enough truth to seem credible, and in return, I learned things. I learned about Jinwan's other spies placed throughout the court. I learned about his plans to eliminate political rivals. I learned about secret meetings with foreign powers, about bribes paid to corrupt officials, about schemes that would destabilize the kingdom for his personal gain. I documented everything, every conversation, every revelation, every piece of evidence that proved Crown Prince Jinwan was unfit to rule. But the cost was high. Every time I met with Jinwan, I had to endure his touches, his hand on my arm, his fingers in my hair, his lips brushing against my ear as he whispered poisoned promises. Every time I came home to Yoon afterward, I felt dirty, compromised. Yoon never complained, never showed jealousy or anger, even though I knew it was killing him to send his wife into the arms of another man, if only for show. Instead, he held me, reminded me that what I was doing mattered, that we were building a case that would bring Jinwan down. Soon, he would whisper on the nights when the weight of the deception felt unbearable. Soon we'll have enough evidence. Soon this will be over. The breaking point came on a cold winter evening. Jinwan had summoned me to his private chambers, not his study this time, but his bedroom. When I arrived, he was waiting with wine and a smile that made my blood run cold. I've been patient, Lady Yoon. I've given you time to warm to me, to see that I can offer you so much more than your husband ever could, but my patience is at an end. He handed me a cup of wine. I took it, but didn't drink. What are you saying, Your Highness? I'm saying it's time for you to prove your loyalty to me, completely. He steps closer, his intention clear. This was what I was afraid of, the moment when pretending would become something real and irreversible. I can't, I said quietly. Your Highness, I'm a married woman. To go further would be... Would be what? Adultery? You've already betrayed your husband by spying for me. What's one more betrayal? I need more time. No more time. His hand closed around my wrist, tight enough to hurt.
You've been playing me, haven't you? Pretending to be interested while feeding me useless information. Did you think I wouldn't notice? That I'm too foolish to see through your little game? Fear spiked through me. Your Highness, I don't know what you... I had the information you gave me verified. Half of it was false. The other half was so trivial it was worthless. His grip tightened. So now I'm wondering, are you working with your husband to undermine me? Are you a spy in my own court? I tried to pull away, but he was stronger. You're hurting me. Am I? He smiled, and it was the same smile I'd seen in my first life as the executioner's blade fell. How unfortunate. But you know what I find interesting, Lady Yoon. You remind me of someone. A palace maid I dealt with a few months ago. She betrayed me too, and I made an example of her. Perhaps I should make an example of you as well. He knew. Somehow, impossibly, he knew. Or maybe not. Maybe he just saw the same spirit in Song Minji that he'd seen in Min Seo-yeon. The same refusal to be broken, to be used. Either way, I was in danger. I reached for the hidden blade in my sleeve, but Jinwan caught my wrist. Did you really think I wouldn't search you? He twisted my arm and the knife clattered to the floor. You're not as clever as you think, Lady Yoon. And now... The door burst open. Lord Yoon stood in the doorway and his face was terrible to behold. Behind him were 2 royal guards, loyal men he'd cultivated over months of careful alliance building. Release my wife, Yoon said, his voice deadly calm. You dare? I dare. Yoon stepped into the room, the guards flanking him. I dare to protect my wife from a man who would abuse his power to force himself on a married noblewoman. I dare to stand against corruption and tyranny, and I dare to present evidence to the king that you, Crown Prince Jinwan, are unfit to rule. He held up a leather-bound book, the journal where I documented everything Jinwan had told me. Treason, Jinwan hissed. You'll both die for this. Perhaps, Yoon said, but you'll die first. The guards moved forward and seized Jinwan. He struggled, shouting threats and curses, but they held him firm. Yoon crossed to me and gently took my hands. "Are you hurt?" "No," I whispered. "How did you know to come?" "Because I know you, and I knew that eventually he would push too far." He kissed my forehead. "It's over, Minji. You're safe now."
The trial of Crown Prince Jinwan lasted 3 days. Yoon and I presented our evidence to the king. Every secret meeting, every bribe, every treasonous plan. We brought witnesses who testified to his corruption. We showed documents in his own hand proving his crimes. On the 3rd day, the king rendered his judgment. Crown Prince Jinwan was stripped of his title and exiled to a remote monastery, where he would spend the rest of his life in isolation and contemplation. His name would be struck from the records of royal succession. It wasn't execution, but it was erasure, the same fate he'd tried to give me. As the guards led Jinwan away, he looked at me one last time, and in his eyes I finally saw recognition. "You," he whispered, "the maid, but you're dead. I watched you die." "I watched Min Se-yeon die," I said quietly, "but I'm Song Minji now, and I'm the one who destroyed you." Understanding dawned on his face, followed by rage, then finally fear. "You came back," he said. "You came back from death itself to destroy me." "Yes," I said simply. "I did." They dragged him away, still screaming about ghosts and vengeance and impossible things. Later, Yoon found me in the palace gardens, standing in the same spot where I'd been executed in my first life. "What are you thinking?" he asked, taking my hand. "I'm thinking that justice feels different than I expected," I said. "I thought it would feel triumphant, satisfying, but mostly I just feel tired." "Revenge is exhausting," Yoon said, "but it's over now. You can rest." "Can I?" I looked up at him. "Yoon, what if this isn't over? What if there are consequences for coming back from death? What if—" He silenced me with a kiss. "Then we face those consequences together," he said when we pulled apart. "Whatever comes next, Minji, we face it as partners, as husband and wife, as 2 people who chose each other against all odds." I leaned against him, feeling the steady beat of his heart, and let myself believe in the possibility of a future beyond revenge. "I love you," I whispered. "I love you too, in this life and whatever comes after." And standing there in the palace gardens where I'd once died, I finally felt something I'd never felt in either of my lives: peace. The kingdom of Joseon prospered under the reign of the new crown prince, Jinwan's younger brother, a kind and just man who implemented many of the policies Yoon and I had advocated for. Yoon became the king's chief advisor, the most trusted voice in the kingdom, and I became known as the lady who'd saved Joseon from a tyrant, though few knew the full truth of how I'd done it. We had 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter, and sometimes when I held them, I thought about the girl I'd been in my first life, the naive palace maid who'd loved unwisely and died for it. She felt like a stranger now, a different person entirely. I was Song Minji, wife to Lord Yoon Ha-jun, mother, advisor, survivor. And I was finally, truly free. One evening, as Yoon and I sat watching the sunset from our estate's garden, he turned to me with a question. "Do you ever regret it, coming back, having to relive all that pain?" I thought about it, about the execution, the rebirth, the dangerous game with Jinwan, all of it. "No," I said finally, "because it led me here, to you, to this life, and I wouldn't trade that for anything." He pulled me close and kissed the top of my head. "I wouldn't want to either," he said. And as the sun set over Hanyang, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, I finally understood what I'd been given. Not just a second chance at life, but a second chance at love. And this time, I'd chosen wisely.